but becoming powerful and rich beyond your wildest dreams ain't gonna make you feel better.
Yeah, but it's worth a shot.
I think it's safe to say that Cars 2 is universally known as the worst Pixar movie, but surprisingly enough, it isn't that often when someone comes around to explain why the burning dumpster fire that is Cars 2 is so bad. Sure, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that this movie is a mindless cash grab, but oh boy, there is so much more to unpack than just that. Which is why I'm gonna go back to 2011 to watch this movie more times than I'm personally willing to bring you this video. In the first Cars, we were introduced to a world where everything, even the bugs, are cars. Everything that exists in this universe is somehow tied to the fact that the humans of this world are cars. That's why racing was a big plot point in the first movie. I mean, how do you make a movie about sentient cars without mentioning a sport that exists because cars? Well, Cars 2 answers that question by introducing guns, bombs, spies, and unnecessary violence into this innocent race car world.
Yeah, and who's gonna make me?
Take a look at this clip of former Pixar CEO John Lasseter talking about personification in Pixar movies.
You know, the secret to bringing inanimate objects to life. An inanimate object is manufactured for a purpose. So I would always think its desire, its longing in life is to do what it was manufactured for.
This makes sense in the context of the first Cars, but please, somebody tell me how cars were manufactured to be secret agent spies wielding guns and bombs. Look, if you want to make a James Bond ripoff film, have at it, but I think you're limiting yourself by making a sequel to a movie that already has its own rules. And I get it, secret agent car toys make a lot of money, but you're Pixar. You don't settle for what makes money, you settle for what's good. But besides the obvious dumb concept that this movie has, how's the plot? Yeah, not that great. The whole thing is barely held together by pure convenience. So quick recap, because I'm sure I'm the only one watching this in 2020. McQueen accepts to do a Grand Prix of 3 races in 3 different countries and decides to bring Mater along with him. Before the first race in Japan, Holly Shiftwell, one of the secret agent cars, meets Mater at a party believing he's the American spy they are searching for. After a very swift conversation, they agree to meet at the race the next day. As they communicate during the race, this interaction happens, causing McQueen to lose the race.
Just keep moving.
Stay outside. Gotcha.
Outside? Whoa! McQueen suddenly moves to the outside.
This is such an obvious, unnatural response that was only said to make McQueen lose the race.
Just stay focused.
What's that? You want me to head toward that ruckus?
And the fact that McQueen actually listened to Mater, the unintelligent tow truck who knows nothing about racing, is beyond me. McQueen has no right to be mad at Mater for losing the race. 1, he never should have listened to him.
I could help.
I don't need your help.
Then why did you take it from him, you stupid? And 2, this literally goes against everything McQueen learned in the first movie.
This grumpy old race car I know once told me something.
It's just an empty cup.
Clearly, McQueen doesn't care about racing anymore, but he sure is giving Mater a hard time about it. Why did he do this? Well, for the movie to progress, we need Mater to end up at the airport, so let's just have McQueen yell at him to the point where he wants to leave. This entire first race scene is so loosely thrown together, relying heavily on convenience. But don't worry, it gets worse. For being intelligent spy cars trained to crack the code of a situation by gathering evidence, Finn and Holly are really dumb, because it takes them way longer than needed to figure out that Mater isn't the spy they think he is, despite Mater telling them multiple times that he isn't a spy.
But you know I'm just a tow truck, right?
Right, and I'm just in the import-export business.
Dude, you guys are literally in your own private jet. Like, I can understand you thinking he's playing into his quote undercover character when you're in public, but there is no reason for him to be doing it alone with you guys.
You were being serious in Paris. McQueen isn't just part of your cover.
Friendships can be dangerous in our line of work, Mater.
But my line of work is towing and salvaging.
Right, and Miss Shiftwells is designing iPhone apps.
No, I meant for real.
Why don't you listen to him? He has no reason to lie right now. This isn't even a spy thriller spoof joke because the movie cannot work without this. This is exactly why the movie is just incapable of happening correctly. As a screenwriter, you should be able to acknowledge that in the circumstances of what has been set up thus far in the movie, Mater interacting with the spy cars in private is a major red flag, because it sets up the opportunity for them to prematurely find out that Mater isn't a spy. But the movie pushes against this wave because it needs to happen like this for it to work, even if it goes against all logic and common sense. That's the problem with convenience in this movie.
I'm not a spy. I've been trying to tell you that the whole time.
Finn, he's not joking.
I know.
You
And this isn't even the only instance of a character not having their true identity prematurely revealed. During the second race, Mater disguises as one of the bad guys to listen in on a secret meeting with the main car they are trying to decode. But during the meeting, his identity is perfectly disguised for no good reason. Everyone in the room is in on the plan. Why are they attempting to disguise his identity? Is it because Mater? They weren't expecting Mater to be there, so obviously it can't be that. Is it because convenience? Yes it is. The spies need to have that shock reveal at the end of, oh, Axelrod was behind it the whole time, rather than in the middle, because at that point they actually have time to stop him before the last race.
Descramble that voice.
I'm trying. Oh, it's too sophisticated.
Bro, that is so clearly Axelrod's voice pitched down. It is not too sophisticated.
I wish I could be with you on
Big oil. It costs a fortune.
And while we're on the topic of convenience, there's no justified reason for McQueen to use All in All for the last race other than to add some stakes.
Fillmore says the fuel's safe.
Well, clearly it isn't, since all your opponents are blowing up.
Lightning McQueen must be killed.
Perfect, now the third act is set up. It's honestly shocking going back and rewatching this film, knowing how it ends and seeing how much inconsistencies are in it, especially when it comes to the Axelrod villain reveal. Let's do a brief rundown of the villain's plan in the movie, shall we? Professor Z and these other cars that I can't be bothered to Google the name of find an oil field, and like any opportunistic person would, they decide that they want to milk every last penny out of this gold mine. The only problem is, all in all, a new alternative fuel has been invented by Axelrod, and it's beginning to replace oil, so they decide to exploit an insecurity within the fuel so that everyone boycotts All in All and starts buying their oil. Alright, makes enough sense, except plot twist, Axelrod is conspiring with the oil diggers and invented All in All for this plan. Yep, that was totally something that was being effectively built up to throughout the entire movie. In fact, I bet if I were to rewatch it, I wouldn't find a single inconsistency in regards to this twist before it happened.
All in all by itself is good for you. But after microscopic examination, I have found that it has one small weakness.
Wait a minute. Something doesn't seem right. Play that again.
After microscopic examination...
Bro, you literally invented the fuel with Axelrod. This wasn't something you just discovered. I get that we're not even an hour into the film, but Professor Z literally just lied to the audience. They are already planning on killing the American spy, so it's not like they're trying to hide it from him. This is just another way that this film denies the truth to fit the oddly shaped structure and demands of this mess of a script. But going back to the Axelrod twist, it's revealed at the end that All in All is just overpowered gas that blows up when hit with a heat ray, so at least they aren't that dumb. But this brings up a lot of questions about their idiotic plan that we never get an answer to, such as, how do you expect cars to not figure out that this is just gas? I mean, look, I'm no car, but if I were, I think I would be able to figure out whether gas or alternative was inside me. As a matter of fact, what even is All in All supposed to be? The wiki just says something cliche like it's an energy source of the future, but seriously, what is it? Is it electricity? Is it ethanol? Is it plutonium? These are serious questions, because how do you expect other people to accept what this fuel is if you don't even know what it is? Oh wait, everyone ended up accepting this as just alternative fuel. I'm honestly calling BS on this, because out of all the cars in the world, nobody found out that the Elon Musk of this world promoted a new fuel as alternative when it's just gas? Don't you think it would be a little insane to just assume that this would all go according to plan when everyone in this world is so familiar with gasoline? And don't you think it's a little insane that this plan actually worked for a short amount of time? Wait, you know, there's a word for that. What is it? It's something like... oh, convenience! For the villain's plan to work, they had to do so many insane leaps, most of which relied on the ignorance of all cars when they could have just, you know, sold the oil. Alternative fuel wasn't invented yet, they were just trying to get ahead before someone did invent it. But the thing is, they're going through an energy crisis. It's not like scientists are just gonna stop trying to find an alternative because one guy screwed it up. It's honestly kind of ironic that this plan relied on ignorance but was broken by an ignorant car.
Now that's funny.
If you thought the villain's plan was hard to believe, then oh boy, just wait till you see how it gets revealed. For the entire film, Mater acts unapologetically stupid and annoying because that's just who he is. But in this final scene, Mater miraculously gets an inexplicable boost of intelligence to figure out that Axelrod is behind all of this.
It was you leaking oil at the party in Japan. You just blamed it on me.
Electric cars don't use oil, you twit.
Then you're faking it.
Mater is stupid. There is no way he could have made these crazy connections. It's just way out of character. Halfway through the film, it tries to make the audience sympathize for Mater since everyone thinks he's a fool.
Is that how you see me?
That's how everyone sees you. No one realizes they're being fooled because they're too busy laughing at the fool.
But the thing is, he is a fool. There's no hard feelings about it, he's just the comic relief sidekick character who never should have gotten his own film. And if this scene is supposed to line up with that sympathy and be the breakthrough of his intelligence, it failed miserably because right after this scene he is back to being the same dumb tow truck he has been for the entirety of the last 2 films. And the spy cars are right there, and they weren't the ones to figure it out. It's not like what Mater's saying is exclusive knowledge to him. Bolts and engines would be common knowledge in a Cars universe, meaning that these sophisticated spy cars who are trained to be able to crack the code should have figured this out, but they didn't.
How did the tow truck figure it out?
I don't know, Axelrod. I don't know. Also, I don't know where to throw this in, but the oil that Axelrod supposedly leaked did not come from Axelrod. I mean, look at it. It's flowing towards him. The majority of it is under Mater, and we don't even see it leak from Axelrod. Like, what? To end this video, I'd like to introduce you to an animation studio that has made a decade and a half's worth of original, incredible, timeless content. Surprise, surprise, it's Pixar. From 1995 to 2010, they made nothing but beautifully artistic and masterfully written films that made even the most stern adults think twice before blowing all animation off as children's entertainment.
I've got some children I need to make into corpses!
And that's not just because they are emotional, tear-inducing films, it's because they're well-written, beautifully portrayed stories. After Toy Story came out in 1995 and John Lasseter noticed that the main takeaway from film reviewers was its incredible story and not that it was the first computer-animated film, he realized exactly what Pixar needed to be, a company devoted to telling good stories first. And for a decade and a half, that's what Pixar was. That is, until 2011. After Cars 2, their next film was Brave, which, does anyone really care about this movie? I don't even remember a single scene from it other than the archery part and the part with the witch because the Pixar theme. Within the 2010s, Pixar predominantly made sequels of their already proven successful 2000s films. And while most aren't necessarily bad, it's very disheartening to see this company that's incredible at making original stories to come up with things that feel so dry and worthless. And Cars 2 was the start of it all. Cars 2 is a giant middle finger to the craft of storytelling that Pixar was so great at. It sucks as much as it does because it's coming from the top dog. If DreamWorks made this movie, it could easily be hidden under its large catalog of terrible films. Because in the grand scheme of things, there are worse movies out there. But for me personally, based on everything this pile of garbage represents, Cars 2 is my least favorite movie of all time. Okay, that was very negative. Is there anything I like about this movie? I thought the score was alright, but Pixar has done better ones. The action scene with Finn at the beginning was pretty cool, even if it's a giant 180 from what this universe was set up to be. And the fact that there's an energy crisis helps the Cars films fit perfectly into the Pixar theory, so at least it's got some worth there. But other than that, it's all a dumpster fire.
Don't touch the Nemo!
He touched the
garbage. You just pounded your little tail right back here, Nemo. That's right. You were in big trouble, young man. Do you hear me? Big